So only 2 more classes are left in your eye, and these 2 classes are very important for your examination purpose of view. Okay, all that I am going to teach you are almost sure shots questions for your exams, upcoming exams. Okay, so listen carefully. If you can't understand anything, then ask me. Okay. So last class we had started with the photoreceptor mechanism, that is our physiology of vision. Okay, so here in physiology of vision we will study about 3 mechanisms. Okay, so today's class we will deal about these 3, the first 2 mechanism, and the next class we will see about the 3rd mechanism. So what are these 3 mechanisms that we are going to study in physiology of vision? Okay, so the first mechanism is your initiation of vision. That means your phototransduction mechanism. Phototransduction mechanism. It is the initiation of vision, and it is the function of the photoreceptors, that is the rods and cones. So the phototransduction mechanism is nothing but the conversion of light energy into your neural signals by the visual pigments present in your photoreceptors, that is your rods and cones, and this is known as your phototransduction. Okay, so the next mechanism that we are going to study is the processing and transmission of the visual sensation. Okay, so first is initiation, next is your processing and transmission. Okay, and this is the function of the image processing cells of retina, that is your bipolar cells mainly. Okay, and also the visual pathway, that is from the rods and cones till your visual cortex, and the last mechanism is your visual perception, that is the function of your visual cortex. So 3 mechanisms in your physiology of vision. First one, initiation, next processing and transmission, and the last one is your visual perception. Okay, so the first one, that is your phototransduction, is the function of the photoreceptors, that is the rods and cones. So we have studied in basics about the different layers, 10 different layers of the retina, the pigmented layer 1 and 9 nervous layers. Okay, and the functions of each of the layer and what are the components in each of the layer. So we had last class we had studied about the photoreceptors, that is your rods and cones, and what are the photopigments present in your rods and cone. Okay, so just a recapitulation of what is rod pigment and what is cone pigment. Okay, so the rod pigment, otherwise known as your rhodopsin, it consists of opsin and retinine, that is the retinal or the aldehyde of vitamin A, and the cone pigment is of 3 types: red, blue and green, and it contains opsin known as photopsin and retinine. And one more type of pigment is melanopsin. It is present in absence of both rod pigment and cone pigment. So this mechanism of phototransduction, okay, or the light induced changes or the photochemical changes, 3 names: phototransduction, light induced changes, or photochemical changes. When it happens, okay, and why it happens. So when light strikes your eye, okay, the a very high hyperpolarizing potential is generated in your rods and cones. Okay, so this potential is termed as your photoreceptor potential. Okay, and this helps in the conversion of your light energy to your neural signal. So this process is termed as your phototransduction. Okay, so light falling upon retina, it is absorbed by the visual pigment and initiate a photochemical changes which trigger a sequence of events that cause your phototransduction. And phototransduction is nothing but conversion of your light energy to your neural signals. So we have three photochemical changes occurring in the rods and cones, and these photochemical changes that occur in the rods and cones are termed as your Wald visual cycle. Wald, W-A-L-D, Wald visual cycle. And this visual cycle, it comprises of two things. First is your rhodopsin bleaching. Okay, rhodopsin bleaching or photodecomposition. Okay, rhodopsin bleaching or photodecomposition. The other step is your rhodopsin regeneration. Okay, rhodopsin regeneration, and these two together is termed as your visual cycle or Wald visual cycle. Okay, so again, visual cycle is a important question for your examination. So the light induced changes. What are the light induced changes? So here we are going to study what happens, okay, when light falls on rhodopsin. What happens when light falls on your rhodopsin? Okay, so as you all know, rhodopsin, it contains an opsin. The opsin here, okay, the mechanism or this physiology of vision or the phototransduction, okay, it is studied, it is same for both rods and cones, but here we are going to study the phototransduction mechanism in your rod cells. Okay, so for rod cells, the pigment present is your rhodopsin, and it contains two substances. One is your opsin and other one is your retinine. Okay, so the opsin in rhodopsin is termed as your scotopsin, and the retinine present, that is a vitamin A aldehyde, is otherwise termed as, or the biochemical name is your 11-cis retinal. 11-cis retinal. Okay, now when light is absorbed by a rhodopsin, it converts 11-cis retinal into all trans retinal. Okay, why is this all trans retinal required? It is required for your rhodopsin regeneration. So the first step is rhodopsin bleaching or photodecomposition, that means breakdown of rhodopsin, and the second step, rhodopsin regeneration, is from the broken rhodopsin molecule, again generation of a new rhodopsin pigment. Okay, so what are the steps it involves? The first one we will see in the cycle in details, but here you can see rhodopsin is converted into your bath rhodopsin, which is again converted into your lumirhodopsin, metarhodopsin 1 and metarhodopsin 2. So a conversion of rhodopsin to metarhodopsin, why it is required? Because rhodopsin is not in the activated form. So metarhodopsin is the activated form of rhodopsin, which is the main basis component which is required for your receptor or generation of your receptor potential. So rhodopsin to bathrhodopsin to lumirhodopsin to metarhodopsin 1 and then to your metarhodopsin 2. So metarhodopsin 2 is the activated form of rhodopsin which is required for your receptor potential. Now this metarhodopsin will split into two forms. One is your opsin and the other one is your all-trans retinal. So I told you all-trans retinal is required for rhodopsin regeneration. So your first step, that is your rhodopsin bleaching or the photodecomposition, is from rhodopsin till the formation of metarhodopsin, that is activated form of rhodopsin, which splits into the two components, that is your opsin and your all-trans retinal. This step from rhodopsin till your formation of your all opsin and all trans retinal is termed as your photodecomposition, and hence it is said that rhodopsin is bleached or broken down by the action of light. Okay, so rhodopsin is broken down by the action of light, that is your photodecomposition. Okay, so this is your first step, that is rhodopsin bleaching. Now what happens to these two components, that is opsin and all trans retinal? Okay, so the all trans retinal, this is required in your rhodopsin regeneration. It is converted by the enzyme retinal isomerase, which combines with opsin to form your rhodopsin. So again regeneration of rhodopsin. And why do we require these two steps in your visual cycle? We will study this in the next topic. Okay, why these two phenomena are required? That is, first one is your rhodopsin bleaching and the second one is your rhodopsin regeneration. So after the formation of all trans retinal, it is converted by the enzyme retinal isomerase, which combines with your opsin to form your rhodopsin. Another way, all trans retinal is converted into your all trans retinol, that is your vitamin A, by enzyme dehydrogenase in presence of NADH2. Okay, this is another method. Okay, then the all trans retinol is converted into your 11-cis retinol by retinol isomerase, and 11-cis retinol converts into your 11-cis retinal, which combines with opsin to form rhodopsin. So these are the two methods in your rhodopsin regeneration. First one is direct conversion of all trans retinal to your retinal isomerase, which combines with the opsin to form rhodopsin, and this is the other one which involves the breakdown of all trans retinal to all trans retinol, and which is converted into your 11-cis retinol by your retinol isomerase. Again 11-cis retinol is converted into your 11-cis retinal, which combines with your opsin to form your rhodopsin, and these two mechanisms together is termed as your rhodopsin regeneration. Okay, so first bleaching, next regeneration. Again these two combined together is termed as your wall visual cycle. Okay, so under your constant light stimulation, that is a steady state, it must exist under which rate at which photochemicals are bleached is equal to rate at which they are generated. Okay, so rhodopsin bleaching should be equal to your rhodopsin regeneration. So why this equilibrium is maintained? Okay, so that there will be proper vision in both light and in your dark. So this equilibrium between the photodecomposition and regeneration of visual pigments is termed as your visual cycle. So this is the total visual cycle. The first from rhodopsin to your metarhodopsin 1, okay, and conversion into your all-trans retinal involves light. The next mechanism from all-trans retinal to your 11-cis retinal, which is again added or which is again mixed with your opsin to form your rhodopsin, does not require light energy. So only the rhodopsin bleaching requires your light energy. Rhodopsin regeneration doesn't require light energy. So here you can see rhodopsin to bath rhodopsin, lumirhodopsin, metarhodopsin 1, metarhodopsin 2, and then metarhodopsin 2 is broken down into your scotopsin or opsin and your all-trans retinal. This is the first step, rhodopsin bleaching. The second step, it starts with your all-trans retinal. Either it directly converts into your 11-cis retinal, okay, with an enzyme isomerase, and 11-cis retinal will combine with scotopsin to form rhodopsin, or it will convert itself into all-trans retinol or vitamin A and again to 11-cis retinol and 11-cis retinal again combined with opsin to form rhodopsin. The second mechanism, that is all-trans retinal, is getting converted into your all-trans retinol, that is vitamin A, is mostly commonly found in your eye. Okay, so this second mechanism is more common than the first, directly converting into your 11-cis retinal and forming your rhodopsin. So this is your visual cycle that comprises of your rhodopsin bleaching or photodecomposition or rhodopsin regeneration. So is it clear to all of you, or you are having any doubts in any of the steps? Okay, so we can move on to the next topic, that is phototransduction or conversion of the light energy to your neural signal. So till now what we have seen, when light falls on the rhodopsin, it gets broken down or it gets bleached and it forms two substances, that is your metarhodopsin 2, that is the active form, and your opsin. So from that we will start. Okay, so the conversion of light energy to neural signal by the visual pigments in the photoreceptors is known as your phototransduction. It involves 4 steps. First one, it is the activation of rhodopsin. Okay, activation of rhodopsin. Okay, so this we have studied in the previous one, the visual cycle, how the rhodopsin is activated. So exposure to light, rhodopsin will go transformation to form the active form of rhodopsin, that is your metarhodopsin 2. The second step is your activation of transducin. Okay, activation of transducin. This is the second step. So transducin is a G protein. Okay, so activated rhodopsin or the metarhodopsin, it will act as an enzyme to activate your transducin. Okay, so rhodopsin, it acts as an enzyme to activate transducin. Okay, so here transducin will get replaced by your GTP and alpha subunit will separate from it. Okay, how this happens again we'll study. Transducin gets replaced by your GTP and the alpha subunit from it will separate. The third one is the conversion of your cyclic GMP to your GMP. conversion of cyclic GMP to GMP. Okay, so the alpha subunit that has been separated from your transducin, okay, it activates the enzyme phosphodiesterase. Okay, here you can see activation of phosphodiesterase. So the alpha subunit will activate the enzyme phosphodiesterase. It helps or it catalyzes the conversion of cyclic GMP within the photoreceptor cells. So phosphodiesterase act as a catalysis in conversion of cyclic GMP within the photoreceptor cells. So what do we need? Conversion of cyclic GMP to your GMP. Okay. Now the last step occurs, that is your production of receptor potential. So first one was activation of rhodopsin, second is activation of transducin, third is conversion of cyclic GMP to GMP, and the last one is your production of receptor potential. Okay, so I is a very unique structure. Okay, and if you remember the all and none law, okay, for your action potential or graded potential, so I doesn't follow your all or none law. Why? Because the receptor potentials of the photoreceptors, that is your rods and cones, is local graded potential. Okay, so the receptor potential here in your eye is your local graded potential. Okay, so it will not propagate as your action potential, and also it will not follow your all or none law. Okay, so in general, the resting membrane potential in a nerve cell, if you remember, it is minus 70 to minus 90 millivolt. Okay, resting membrane potential in a nerve cell is minus 70 to your minus 90 millivolt. But in visual receptors, during your when light is not available or during darkness, the resting membrane potential decreases to minus 40 millivolt. Okay, the resting membrane potential decreases to minus 40 millivolt in your visual receptors during your dark. Okay, why this happens? Okay, what is this minus 40 millivolt important in your generation of your receptor potential? So this happens because of influx of sodium. Okay, influx of sodium, and this is termed as your dark current. Okay, dark current. The sodium influx maintains the negative potential up to minus 40 millivolt, and this is termed as your dark current. So what happens during your dark? What happens to the sodium potassium channels? Okay, so in dark, the sodium are pumped out of the inner segment of the rod cells to your ECF. Okay, so moving out, sodium are moving out. So what will happen? In general, if sodium moves out, okay, so they will create more of negativity in the outside, but they again return back to the rod cells, okay, through the outer membrane, and these from the inner segments they move out, from the outer segment they move in. Okay, which will reduce the electronegativity inside your rod cells, and these channels are termed as your leaky channels. Okay, so coming back of sodium into the rod cells will maintain the negative potential, that is your minus 40 millivolt inside your rod cells. Why this happens? Why there is again an influx of sodium back into the rod cell? Because of the presence of your cyclic GMP in the cytoplasm of the outer segment of rod cells. So this cyclic GMP will always keep the sodium channels open. So this is the requirement of your cyclic GMP in the outer segment, which helps to open the sodium channels always. So if there is closure of sodium channels, that means there is reduction in your cyclic GMP content in the outer segment. So by this mechanism, the concentration of sodium inside the rod cells is maintained by minus 40 millivolt, and it is regulated by your sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay, this is termed as your dark current. That means maintenance of the negative potential by the sodium influx, the negative potential being minus 40 millivolt is termed as your dark current. So this will cause your hyperpolarization. Okay, hyperpolarization. So that will lead to decreased release of synaptic transmitter, and there will be response in your bipolar cells. So from here we in the phototransduction mechanism we see the involvement of the rods and cone cells up till your bipolar cells. Okay, after bipolar cells, whatever happens comes in your visual pathway. Okay, so light falls on retina, it is absorbed by the rods and cone cells, phototransduction mechanism occurs, it is first bleached, then again regenerated. Okay, then phototransduction mechanism occur, that means a generation of a action potential or receptor potential in the eye, and it comes to your bipolar cells. From the bipolar cells, it is taken up by the visual pathway. Okay, so we have finished with this topic, that is your phototransduction, or you can say physiology of vision. Okay, the next topic for today's is your visual pathway. Okay, the second mechanism of physiology of vision, that is processing and transmission of visual sensation, that is your visual pathway. And the last thing, that is your visual perception, is the function of your visual cortex. So before we move to the pathway, let's see one more important thing. What is a visual field? Okay, what is a visual field? Okay, have you understood till now whatever I have taught? Any doubts? So visual cycle is important, phototransduction is important. Okay. So what is visual field? It's the area of the external world that can be seen when gaze is fixed is termed as your visual field. So the visual field plotted with only one eye is termed as your monocular visual field, and the visual field of both eyes which overlap in the center, it is termed as your binocular visual field. So each visual field is divided into your two segments. One is your nasal segment or the medial segment, which corresponds to your nose, and the temporal portion, the other half, or the lateral portion. Okay, so we will see for each eye, light rays from an object situated in the nasal field stimulate the temporal retina, and light rays in the temporal field will stimulate the nasal retina. This we will see in your visual pathway. So for now, you remember the area of the external world that can be seen when the gaze is fixed is termed as a visual field, and if it is plotted with one eye, it is termed as a monocular vision. If both eyes overlap, that is in the center, it is termed as your binocular visual field, and the visual field is divided into two segments. One is a medial, that is a nasal field, and the temporal, that is a lateral. So this diagram, you can see, this is your binocular vision, the purple segments, that is seen by both your eyes, and by one eye, if you see, it is your monocular visual field. So it's seen by right eye or seen by left eye, only one vision, that is your monocular visual field. If by both eyes, it is termed as your binocular visual field. So what is binocular vision? Okay, one eye visual field, if viewing an object as a single one with both eyes, is your binocular vision. Okay, and corresponding points are 2 points on the retina on which light rays from an object fall simultaneously to make the binocular vision possible. Applied diplopia, if light rays do not fall on the corresponding points, okay, double vision or diplopia occurs. So methods of estimation of visual field, one is termed as your peripheral field charting. When you will go to the higher classes opthal, you will know about this perimetry. Okay, perimetry. And central field charting is termed as your campimetry or scotometry. So perimetry, the different methods that are used, the Goldman perimeter, okay, Jerram screen or tangent screen, conformation test. Okay, so all these are for your peripheral field charting. For central field charting, it's a field analyzer, Humphrey field analyzer. Okay, Humphrey field analyzer. So two methods for estimation of your visual field. So visual field, two types, monocular, binocular, and what is binocular vision and estimation of your visual field. So the next topic, very important again, is your visual pathway. Okay, visual pathway. So we had seen in the previous topics, when light rays falls on your retina, the photoreceptor cells that contain your photopigments, okay, they get activated and they will generate a receptor potential that comes towards or is transmitted to the bipolar cells. Okay, from bipolar cells through your ganglionic cells, through your optic nerve, through your lateral geniculate body, it relays to your visual cortex. So bipolar cells, then to your ganglionic cells, then through your optic nerve, through your lateral geniculate body, okay, they will go to your visual cortex. So this is the visual pathway. So there are three order neurons. The first order neurons are your bipolar cells in your retina. Okay, so the axons from the bipolar cells will synapse with the dendrites of your ganglionic cells. So the ganglionic cells form your second order neuron. The axons of your ganglionic cells will form your optic nerve. Then optic nerve will leave the eye through your optic disc and terminate in your lateral geniculate body, and the lateral geniculate body will form your third order neuron. From here the fibers will reach your visual cortex. So first order neuron is your bipolar cell, second order neuron is your ganglionic cell, and the third order neuron as your lateral geniculate body. Okay, so in this flow chart you can see the total visual pathway, that is visual receptors in your retina. From there the first order neurons, the bipolar cells in the inner nuclear layer, then coming to the second order neuron, that is ganglionic cells in the ganglionic cell layer. From there it comes out through the optic nerve. Okay, the visual pathway will start from your optic nerve to your optic chiasma, optic tract, the lateral geniculate body, then optic radiation and your visual cortex. Okay, from optic nerve to your visual cortex through these optic chiasma, optic tract, the lateral geniculate body which forms your third order neuron, the optic radiation, and coming to your last one, that is your visual cortex. Okay, what is this visual pathway or the processing and transmission of the impulse that has been generated in your ganglionic cells, so in your bipolar cells? Okay, and from the bipolar cells it has come to your ganglionic cells, and from the ganglionic cells now through the optic nerve it is moving towards your visual cortex. So processing and transmission of impulse in your visual pathway. So the first one is the optic nerve. Okay, fibers are axons of the retinal ganglionic cells, and they carry the total output of your retina. Okay, so the impulses or the receptors potentials that has been generated in the bipolar cells are then transmitted into your ganglionic cells, and all those through your optic nerve are transmitted. There are three types of fibers. One is your macular, other one is your temporal, the third one is your nasal. So in this diagram you can see the arrangement of the fibers in your optic nerve. Okay, nasal, again it is of two types. Okay, one is your upper nasal, other one is your lower nasal. Temporal, again divided into two types, upper temporal and lower temporal. So the medial portion is your nasal. Okay, according to the visual field, nasal field, temporal, the lateral one, those are your temporal, and the macular field. Okay, so three types of fibers: macular, temporal and nasal. So the next is your optic chiasma. So fibers originating from the nasal half of the retinae, they decussate at the chiasma, while fibers from the temporal half of the retinae remain uncrossed. Okay, so what happens? Only the nasal half part of your fibers, they cross in your optic chiasma. The temporal fibers, they do not cross, and they are carried in your same line. So the area of crossing of optic nerve fibers, that is the crossing of your nasal half of the fibers, is termed as your optic chiasma. Okay, so optic nerve, you have both the fibers from the nasal side as well as your temporal side. For optic chiasma, only the nasal half of the fibers are present and the temporal halves do not cross in this area. Okay, so the third one, that is your optic tract. So cylindrical bundles of nerve fibers which originate from the chiasma and end in your lateral geniculate body. So which fibers do they contain? They contain the fibers of the temporal field same side and the nasal fibers of the opposite side, because there has already been a crossing in your optic chiasma. Same in the lateral geniculate body, also direct fibers of your temporal side and the crossed fibers of your opposite side. So the oval structure situated at the posterior termination of your optic tract, which consists of direct and crossed fibers in the optic tract, which pass to the alternating lamina of lateral geniculate body and will end here. So why it is the importance of this lateral geniculate body? It serves as a relay station to relay visual information from ganglionic cells to your visual cortex, and in visual perception to gate transmission of signals. Again, what is gating of transmission we will study in the next class. Okay, it helps to relay the impulses that has been generated in your ganglion cells to your visual cortex, and also for the visual perception and to gate the transmission of signals. Last, optic radiation. Okay, it is composed of axons of the lateral geniculate relay cells which project to the visual cortex on the same side of the radiation. So from neurons of the lateral geniculate body, axons project to the primary visual cortex. So the end is your visual cortex. So if you see this diagram, you will clearly understand what is happening to the visual pathway. So this is your left eye, this is your right eye. So two types of fibers which are seen, that is your nasal fibers and the temporal fibers. So optic nerve comprises of both nasal and temporal fibers. The optic chiasma, that is the crossing where only the nasal fibers are present and the temporal fibers just move to the through the optic tract to the lateral geniculate body. So your optic tract comprises of nasal fibers of the opposite side and temporal fibers of your same side. They come to the lateral geniculate body, from there to the optic radiations through your to your visual cortex. So the lateral geniculate body, it sends your sensations also to some of the superior colliculus. The last area is the visual cortex. This is the end of your visual pathway. It is divided into, okay, visual cortex is again a very important topic which you will study in your other nervous system when you will see cortex. Okay, the areas of the visual cortex, mostly you must have studied in your anatomy. Okay, primary visual cortex or the V1 area, it comprises of your, or it is termed as your visual sensory area or Brodmann area 17. Okay, then you have your other visual areas also, that is your visual association area, that is your area 18 and 19. Okay, so what is the function? Primary visual area is for the main vision. So what is the function of this visual association areas? So these areas will help in say appreciating finer attributes of objects. Okay, like for example the texture, the shape, the depth, okay, or perception of form, orientation of the object, or where it is located. So the finer attributes of the objects are through your visual association area. So one more area, that is your frontal eye field or area 8. Okay, so it controls the saccadic eye movements. So anyone can tell me? I have already told you about the eye movements. Anyone can tell me what are the saccadic eye movements? Anyone? Okay. So the convergence and divergence, these two come under your saccadic eye movements. So frontal eye field will control the saccadic eye movements. So I told you some fibers from your lateral geniculate body also goes to your superior colliculi. Okay, so the function or the superior colliculi, what is the function of this? It is again divided into your superficial and deep layers. Okay, so the superficial layers of superior colliculi, it will coordinate the bilateral eye movements. Okay, bilateral eye movements. So what are they? They are your saccades. Okay, that is your the convergence and divergence. Okay, so they will coordinate the bilateral eye movements. So this is the function of your superficial layer. Then coming to the function of your deep layers, it will regulate the head and eye position. Okay, it will regulate your head and eye position. So this is superior colliculi. One more area in the brain, that is your pretactal nucleus. Pretactal nucleus. It is for your pupillary reflexes. We will study next class again. Okay, and what are these pupillary reflexes for? It is for your regulation of your visual fixation. One more part, that is your suprachiasmatic nucleus. Okay, so it is for your biological clock activity, that is your light and dark cycle. Okay, suprachiasmatic nucleus, it maintains your light and dark cycle. So we have finished with the visual pathway, starting from your optic nerve to your optic chiasma. Okay, then coming to the optic tract, to the lateral geniculate body, optic radiation, and your visual cortex. So this is your visual pathway. Now I have taught you about the visual field. So let's see if there is any hindrance in your visual field or any lesions in your pathway. Then what are the diseases that are associated with it? So blindness of visual field is known as your anopia, and hemianopia, it means your half blindness, which can be of two types. One is homonymous, other one is heteronymous. So homonymous is same side of both the visual field, and heteronymous is different side of both the visual field. So the visual field defects again is divided into two types. One is your glucomatous field defects, and other one is your field defects in lesion of your visual pathway. If visual pathway comes for your questions, the visual field defects is must side question to your visual pathway. What happens when there is a lesion in your visual pathway? So which area it involves, that type of blindness occur. Okay, either it is anopia or hemianopia. So the visual defect is of two types, anopia, hemianopia. So anopia again, which eye it involves? Right anopia, left anopia. Hemianopia again, homonymous, heteronymous. Homonymous again, right side, left side, and heteronymous, it is either binasal or bitemporal. Okay, so these are the different types of visual defects. So okay, so in the next we will see if there is a lesion in the visual pathway, in which part of the visual pathway, and it is related to which type of visual defect. So the first one, okay, so is your optic nerve. Okay, so what is the different segments of your optic pathway? So optic nerve, then you have your optic chiasma, then you have your optic tract, okay, then your optic radiation, and then coming to your visual cortex. Okay, so in the path, if there is a lesion in the optic nerve, okay, one side lesion in your optic nerve, then there will be ipsilateral blindness of one side, the side that is getting affected, ipsilateral blindness. Okay, blindness of the left eye. Then the second one, okay, second is your optic chiasma. So optic chiasma, if only the nasal field there is okay, for optic chiasma, bilateral compression, it will lead to your binasal hemianopia. That means only if the nasal field, nasal fibers are affected, then it will be binasal hemianopia. If the temporal fibers are affected, then it will be bitemporal hemianopia. So the rest, it is getting divided, that means only the nasal fibers of the opposite side and the temporal fibers of the same sides are going from 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, so for optic tract, that is the left side of the optic tract, there will be right hemianopia. Why? Because nasal fibers of the right eye and temporal fibers of your left eye will get affected. Okay, nasal fibers in your right eye and temporal fibers of your left eye. Then same with the optic radiation. Okay, but some fibers from the optic radiations goes towards also your other parts. Okay, so again optic radiation is divided into two divisions, the lower divisions and the upper divisions. If the lower division is affected, okay, it is termed as, for a simpler vision, pie in the sky. Okay, pie in the sky, that means there is right upper quadrant anopia. That means the right upper quadrant there is anopia. Okay, so it is your one side of your nasal field, the other side of your half of your nasal field and half of your temporal field. Similarly, on the upper divisions, it is right lower quadrant anopia. Okay, so these two for easy remembrance. The fifth one is termed as your pie in the sky, and the sixth one is termed as your pie in the floor. Okay. And seventh, if both the fibers are involved that are going to your visual cortex, okay, if both are involved, then if you remember, three types of fibers were there. Okay, so one is your nasal fibers and the other one is your temporal fibers, along with one more, that one was your macular fibers. So here it is termed as, if both are there is a lesion in the both, then write hemianopia with macular sparing. That means right side of the nasal field and the temporal field, leaving the macular region. So that is right hemianopia with macular sparing. So these are the visual field defects. What happens when there is a lesion in the optic nerve, optic chiasma, then optic tract, then in the from optic radiation, upper and lower divisions, that one that goes to your lateral geniculate body and the other one that comes to your visual cortex, and both the fibers from involving your optic radiation. Okay, so the first one involves both the fibers, second one only your nasal or temporal. From fourth, fifth, sixth, it one side of the temporal field, same side temporal field and opposite side nasal field. So that much you have to remember, otherwise anopia is total blindness. Okay, ipsilateral means one side anopia, okay, and hemianopia, that you know, half. Okay, either it is binasal or bitemporal. Is that clear? So we have finished with the visual pathway. The last topic that is left in eye, that is your visual perception. Okay, what happens in the cortex? So we have traveled from the structures of the eye, the cornea, the lens, then coming to the retina, and in the retina we have studied about the rods and cone cells, then to the bipolar cells, then to the ganglionic cells. From there, how the optic nerve emerges, okay, and from the optic nerve till your visual cortex, that is your visual pathway. Now the end part that we are going to study in the next class is what happens in the visual cortex. How do we perceive the images that we see through the eye? Okay, so that is our last part and our last topic, visual perception. So if you have any doubt in today's class, you can ask me, otherwise we will finish off this. Is it okay with you? Okay, so for your second semester examination, till I, that will come for your exams. Okay, till I, ear and smell test won't come. Okay, so thank you all.